I've been yours since that first day you carved my initials in your leg.
I have been yours since the day I first saw you riding side saddle on a buffalo.
The Addams Family has always been known for its eccentricity and spooky charm. But did you know that behind the scenes, things were even stranger? From Carolyn Jones enduring hours of grueling makeup to transform into Morticia, to the shocking fact that the family's iconic living room was actually painted in bright pink, there are countless mysteries surrounding the original show. Even Ted Cassidy, who played Lurch, had a secret double role that few knew about. What other hidden details from this classic series might surprise you? Carolyn Jones's grueling transformation into Morticia. Becoming Morticia Addams was no simple feat for Carolyn Jones. To bring the Gothic matriarch to life, Jones had to endure an intense and lengthy daily transformation. Her portrayal of Morticia remains iconic, but behind the scenes, the process was far from glamorous. Every day, Jones spent more than 2 hours in the makeup chair, undergoing a grueling transformation to achieve Morticia's signature eerie and elegant look. The first step in her transformation was her face, which had to be painted with a thick layer of pale foundation to give her the ghostly, almost ethereal appearance Morticia was known for. Her skin had to appear as if she had never seen the light of day, which required several layers of foundation, powder, and shading to get the perfect contrast with her dark costume and jet black hair. The pale look was essential, making her stand out from the rest of the Addams clan. Her eyes, though, were the real focal point. They were heavily lined with black eyeliner, stretching beyond her natural lash line to create the dark, dramatic look that was key to Morticia's mysterious allure. This exaggerated cat-eye style gave her a haunting gaze, and black mascara and fake lashes were added to enhance the effect. The final touch was her lips. Painted in deep shades of red or black, her lipstick contrasted starkly against her pale face, completing her otherworldly appearance. Morticia's hair was just as essential to the character's look as the makeup. Jones wore a long, jet black wig made from real human hair, which was styled meticulously every day. The wig had to fall perfectly over her shoulders, sleek and straight, to match the eerie, polished appearance that became Morticia's signature look. It wasn't just any black wig, it was long, luscious, and heavy, giving Jones an elegant yet haunting silhouette. Jones didn't just undergo makeup changes, her wardrobe also played a major role in creating Morticia's iconic look. The long, tight-fitting black dress Morticia wore was custom-made to accentuate her slim figure, and had long flowing sleeves that gave her an almost supernatural grace. However, the dress was so tight that it restricted Jones's movement significantly. In fact, it was so form-fitting that she could barely walk, forcing her to take small, delicate steps. This limitation led to Morticia's distinct gliding movement on screen, which became a trademark of her character. Despite the discomfort and long hours, Jones never let the transformation process affect her performance. She was determined to make Morticia as captivating and strange as possible, and she succeeded. Her portrayal of Morticia Addams became so iconic that even decades later, it's hard to imagine anyone else in the role. The Addams family's high-tech home. The Addams family may have been known for their eerie charm, but they were also unexpectedly ahead of their time, embracing technology long before it became a household staple. One of the most surprising elements of their spooky mansion was the introduction of a computer, long before personal computers were common in homes. In fact, the Addams family home was one of the first TV households to showcase a high-tech gadget like this, represented by a whimsical supercomputer named Wizzo. Wizzo made its first appearance in an episode titled The Addams Family Splurges, where Gomez and Pugsley built the machine to help with some rather unusual tasks. Wizzo wasn't your typical computer. Instead of calculating mundane numbers, it helped the family plan extravagant vacations, like a trip to the moon, which Gomez and Morticia thought would be a fantastic adventure. This wasn't just a gimmick for one episode either. The computer later played a major role in another plot, helping Gomez run his bizarre political campaign for mayor. What made Wizzo stand out wasn't just its futuristic functions, but also how seamlessly it fit into the Addams family's strange and peculiar lifestyle. Most families in the 60s could hardly dream of having such advanced technology in their living room, but for the Addamses, Owning a cutting-edge computer was just as natural as keeping a pet lion or growing exotic plants that ate flies. Wizzo's presence in their home felt as ordinary as Lurch playing the harpsichord. It was all part of the quirky charm that made the Addams family so unique. But Wizzo wasn't the only futuristic gadget in their home. The Addams family's mansion was filled with strange and wonderful inventions that reflected their love for the bizarre. Their technology wasn't just there to make life easier. It often added an extra layer of eccentricity to their already unconventional world. From strange communication devices to hidden contraptions that popped up unexpectedly, their home seemed to be a mix of Victorian Gothic style and avant-garde tech. What set the Addams family apart wasn't just their love for the strange, but how they embraced the future with open arms. At a time when most households didn't even have a television set, the Addamses were imagining space travel and using a computer for political campaigns. In a way, the Addams family's use of technology was a reflection of their outlook on life. While others may have seen computers as complicated, cold machines, the Addamses saw it as just another part of their wonderfully odd reality, a way to make life even more interesting. Charles Addams began as a cartoonist for The New Yorker. Long before the Addams family became a household name, they existed as quirky characters in the mind of their creator, Charles Addams. His career as a cartoonist started with a simple window washer sketch published in The New Yorker on February 6, 1932. However, it wasn't until several years later that the world would first glimpse the then unnamed Morticia Addams, who appeared in a few of Addams' cartoons in the late 30s. Addams never intended to create a full family right away. In fact, Morticia existed as a standalone figure long before Gomez, Pugsley, and Wednesday were added to the mix. In interviews, Addams shared that he based Morticia on the qualities of women he admired, later admitting that her character reflected the traits he found attractive in real life. Some even speculated that Morticia resembled Addams's first wife, Barbara Jean Day, but the timeline doesn't quite fit, as he hadn't met her yet. He once commented that while Morticia wasn't modeled after anyone in particular, there was a touch of Gloria Swanson's dramatic flair in her. Morticia's formal debut, alongside her oddball family members, came in a one-panel cartoon published in The New Yorker in 1938. Over the years, Addams continued to expand this peculiar family in his cartoons. The family dynamic and individual personalities evolved slowly. Gomez, for instance, was added 4 years later, followed by the mischievous Pugsley and the brooding Wednesday. Uncle Fester was eventually added, with Addams humorously admitting that Fester bore some resemblance to himself, only with more hair. Throughout the 40s and 50s, the Addams family graced the pages of The New Yorker in various darkly humorous scenarios. One of their most famous cartoons from that era showed the family joyfully preparing to pour boiling oil on unsuspecting Christmas carolers below their mansion. This particular illustration resonated so well with readers that it was even printed on holiday cards and sold to fans who appreciated Addams' macabre sense of humor. By the time the television show was in development in 1963, the Addams family members still didn't have official names. It wasn't until the producers of the show worked closely with Addams that characters like Wednesday finally got a name derived from the nursery rhyme, "Wednesday's child is full of woe," and the rest of the family was given the familiar monikers we know today. Interestingly, William Shawn, the editor of The New Yorker, was not keen on the idea of the Addams family becoming a television series. Once the show aired in 1964, he prohibited any further Addams family cartoons from being published in the magazine, marking the end of their print appearances. But by then, the family had taken on a life of their own, with their distinct personalities charming television audiences across America. Even though the show only ran for 2 seasons, it solidified the Addams family's place in pop culture history. Meanwhile, Charles Addams continued to work as a prolific cartoonist, drawing over 1,300 cartoons for The New Yorker throughout his career, with 58 of them featuring his beloved Addams family. Addams's influence extended beyond his own work as well. His collaboration with science fiction writer Ray Bradbury in the 40s resulted in a shared connection between the Addams family and Bradbury's own creation, the Elliott family, a similarly odd and monstrous clan featured in Bradbury's stories. Charles Addams' knack for mixing the macabre with humor created a timeless legacy, and his Addams Family remains one of his most celebrated creations. Today, his ghoulish but charming characters continue to inspire adaptations across media, from animated series and films to Broadway musicals. Addams Family House. Every story has a beginning, and for the Addams family, that beginning is deeply rooted in the small town of Westfield, New Jersey. This unassuming town served as the birthplace of Charles Addams, the brilliant mind behind the quirky, dark, and beloved Addams Family. In fact, the eerie mansion where the Addams family resides in his cartoons and on television was directly inspired by a real house in Westfield, a place that Charles Addams himself walked by as a child. The house, with its looming Gothic architecture, became a symbol of everything the Addams family represented: spooky, mysterious, and a bit offbeat. Though the actual house doesn't seem as haunted as the one in the cartoons, its pointed turrets, wide windows, and grand design made it the perfect muse for Charles Addams' imagination. It was in this very town where Addams would develop his fascination with the macabre and eventually bring his vision to life through his cartoons. Today, Westfield honors its most famous resident with an annual celebration known as Addams Fest. This event transforms the town into a Halloween wonderland, complete with decorations, murals, and even a replica of the Addams family mansion sitting proudly in the town's park. Visitors can walk through Westfield, stopping by various houses dressed up in Halloween splendor, each paying homage to the quirky and spooky legacy of the Addams family. One of the most iconic attractions during Addams Fest is the mansion itself. Although it is a scaled-down version of the original, seeing it on an island in the middle of a picturesque pond makes it feel like you've stepped into one of Charles Addams' cartoons. The house stands as a testament to the creative genius of Addams and his ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. For fans of the Addams family, a trip to Westfield during Addams Fest is like stepping back in time to experience the world that inspired Charles Addams. Every corner of the town is filled with nods to the famous family, from statues of Morticia and Gomez to murals of Uncle Fester and Cousin It. Even local shops join in on the fun, with window displays featuring the creepy and kooky clan. Beyond the decorations and festivities, Westfield holds a deep connection to Charles Addams himself. The very streets that visitors walk today are the same ones he wandered as a boy, imagining the strange characters that would eventually become the Addams family. It was here that Addams developed his love for the macabre, often spending time in graveyards and drawing what he saw. This childhood fascination with the darker side of life would go on to shape the humor and style of his work for decades to come. Ted Cassidy played two different roles on the show. Ted Cassidy was a towering presence both on and off the screen, standing at an incredible 6 feet 9 inches tall. He was most famous for his role as Lurch, the tall, imposing butler of the Addams family who rarely spoke, except for his iconic, deep, drawn-out "you rang." But what many people might not realize is that Cassidy also played another important role on the show. He was the hand behind Thing, the disembodied hand that added an extra layer of mystery and quirkiness to the Addams household. Playing two very different characters at once came with its challenges. For Lurch, Cassidy's height and deep voice were perfect, but when it came to playing Thing, his stature actually made things tricky. Thing was just a hand after all, so Cassidy had to get creative to make it work on set. Most of the time, Cassidy would lie flat on a wheeled trolley, carefully hidden from the camera's view, with only his hand visible. He would then insert his hand through a small hole in a box or behind furniture to create the illusion that Thing was crawling around the house all on its own. This setup allowed the Addams family's resident hand to interact with the other characters, all while maintaining the show's creepy atmosphere. Of course, there were moments when Lurch and Thing had to appear on screen together. In these cases, Cassidy couldn't play both characters at the same time. To solve this, associate producer Jack Voglin often stepped in to portray Thing, lending his own hand literally to the role. On a few rare occasions, a third actor was used, but their identity remains a mystery to this day, adding yet another layer of intrigue to the Addams family legacy. Cassidy's portrayal of Thing was more than just a visual effect. It added to the bizarre and whimsical nature of the show. One fun detail about Cassidy's approach to the role was his playfulness with the character. Most of the time, Thing appeared as a right hand, but on certain occasions, Cassidy would switch it up and use his left hand instead just to see if anyone in the audience would notice. This little touch of mischief perfectly captured the quirky spirit of both Cassidy and the show itself. Ted Cassidy's talents didn't stop with the Addams Family. Outside of his work as Lurch and Thing, Cassidy built an impressive career in Hollywood. He appeared in films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and McKenna's Gold in 1969, and he continued to showcase his versatility in roles throughout the 70s. Even after the original Addams Family series ended, Cassidy continued to embrace his role as Lurch, reprising the character in a crossover episode of Batman in 1966, and lending his voice to the animated series The New Scooby-Doo movies in 1972 and the Addams Family animated series in 1973. The Addams Family's living room was actually pink. When you think of the Addams Family, your mind immediately goes to their spooky, eerie, black and white world. So, imagine the surprise when it's revealed that their iconic living room wasn't dark and shadowy at all, it was actually bright and colorful. That's right. The Addams Family's living room set was draped in shades of pink, red, turquoise, and other vibrant hues that would feel completely out of place in their famously creepy mansion. The reason behind this unexpected burst of color is that the show was filmed in black and white. This allowed the set designers to get creative with the colors of the furniture, walls, and props without worrying about how they would appear in color. They were only concerned with how things would look in terms of contrast and texture on screen. In black and white filming, some colors translate differently. Pinks could appear as deep grays, and certain shades of red might look dark and foreboding, which was perfect for the spooky vibe of the Addams Family home. Another fun fact is that even the actors had to wear unusual shades of makeup to achieve the right look on camera. Morticia's lips, for instance, were sometimes painted in brown or green instead of the classic red we imagine. These colors, while odd in real life, made her look perfectly ghostly in the black and white world of the Addams Family. This unique use of color behind the scenes created the eerie atmosphere we associate with the show, proving that sometimes things aren't quite as they seem, even in the most macabre of households. The enigmatic character with electrifying secrets. Uncle Fester Addams stands out as one of the most peculiar and mysterious members of the Addams Family, and his bizarre traits only added to the family's creepy allure. His hunched posture, pale skin, and dark, sunken eyes made him instantly recognizable, but it's his strange abilities and eccentric habits that really set him apart. For instance, Uncle Fester's knack for generating electricity was one of the most bizarre and unexplained phenomena in the show. He often demonstrated this odd power by placing a light bulb in his mouth, which would light up with a crackle as if his body held a secret reservoir of electrical energy. In some adaptations, his electric abilities are so potent that he could shoot lightning from his hands or survive direct lightning strikes without harm. The origin of Uncle Fester's electrifying power is one of the many enduring mysteries of his character. While the 1991 Addams Family movie suggested that Fester regained his memory after being struck by lightning, no definitive explanation is given for how he acquired this strange ability. Whether it's a result of some supernatural family trait or just part of the character's quirky, otherworldly nature, fans are left to wonder. Fester's fondness for physical extremes didn't stop at his love of electricity. He also seemed to take a twisted pleasure in pain. His migraines were a common occurrence, but instead of seeking relief in the usual ways, he would stick his head into a massive screw press and tighten it as if it were a form of therapy. The idea that Fester could enjoy such a painful method of relieving his headaches only adds to his air of strangeness. At times, he would even use the press for pure enjoyment, further cementing his status as the family's most eccentric and enduring oddball. While Fester may appear threatening with his eerie behavior and unconventional quirks, deep down, he has a kind heart. He shows genuine care for Gomez, Morticia, and the rest of the family. Despite his sometimes chaotic actions and even his jealousy of Gomez and Morticia's relationship, Fester's loyalty to his family never wavered. He remained a gentle, albeit strange figure who loved his niece and nephews unconditionally, despite their constant mischief. One of the oddest facts about Uncle Fester comes from the set of the original Addams Family TV show, where actor Jackie Coogan, who portrayed Fester, sometimes had to work around the limitations of television technology. For example, Whenever Fester had to interact with Thing, the famous disembodied hand, technical challenges would arise. Ted Cassidy, the actor who played Lurch, would often play the role of Thing as well. Due to his towering height, Cassidy had to maneuver under tables or inside boxes to ensure only his hand was visible on screen. On the rare occasions when both Lurch and Thing appeared in the same scene, a third, unidentified actor was brought in to play Thing, making it one of the few times Cassidy didn't double up on roles. Fester's mysterious past is another layer that adds intrigue to his character. While he was originally Morticia's uncle in the 60s sitcom, later adaptations, such as the animated series and the Netflix show Wednesday, positioned Fester as Gomez's brother. The shift in family ties added more confusion to his background, but one thing stayed consistent: Fester's deeply embedded ties to the Addams family's strange history. The Addamses, an eccentric clan with strange roots. The Addams family is unlike any other. While most people shy away from the macabre and the grotesque, the Addamses fully embrace it. They take delight in the dark and twisted, finding beauty in things that others would consider horrifying. What makes them even more mysterious is their apparent lack of awareness or concern about how strange they seem to outsiders. To them, their ghoulish ways are completely normal, and they remain blissfully unconcerned by the reactions of others. One intriguing fact about the Addams family is that the iconic characters we know today, Gomez, Morticia, Wednesday, and Pugsley, weren't even given names until the 60s. Created by Charles Addams in his New Yorker cartoons, they were a collection of quirky, spooky figures. It wasn't until a doll collection was released in 1962 that Morticia and Wednesday were given their now famous names. A few years later, with the debut of the Addams Family television series in 1964, Gomez and Pugsley were also christened with their recognizable names. But the family's eccentricity didn't stop with their unnamed beginnings. Their home itself was a character in its own right, filled with bizarre and dangerous pets like Pugsley's octopus, Aristotle, Morticia's carnivorous plant, Cleopatra, and even a lion named Kitty Cat. And who could forget Thing, a disembodied hand that silently performed tasks around the house? Each of these strange and unnerving elements added to the overall mystery of the Addams family, making them a fascinating and bizarre group that captured the imagination of audiences for generations. The mystery behind Gomez's name and fortune. Gomez Addams is one of the most eccentric and charismatic characters in the Addams family, but his name didn't always roll off the tongue. In fact, when the character was being developed for television, Charles Addams originally suggested two potential names, Rapelli and Gomez. Ultimately, it was the actor John Astin, who portrayed Gomez in the original TV series, who chose the name that would become iconic. While Gomez is a surname in Hispanic culture, it became Gomez's first name, adding another layer of oddity to the character. Gomez's personality, which was largely shaped by the TV series, became synonymous with the idea of a mad Castilian. He's often referred to as having Spanish ancestry, a fact that came up in various episodes, with Gomez proudly embracing his heritage. But his backstory is filled with contradictions that add to his mystique. For instance, although Gomez comes from an extremely wealthy family and has been a multi-billionaire since childhood, he claims to have performed odd jobs and scrimped and saved when he was younger. He also occasionally boasts about failing law school and takes great pride in his unconventional achievements, like losing court cases and sending criminals to jail while acting as their defense attorney. Despite his quirky behavior, Gomez is a savvy businessman, although his investments are guided more by whimsy than strategy. From buying a swamp for its scenic value to owning businesses as odd as a buzzard farm, Gomez's wealth is a testament to his bizarre sense of priorities. Yet no matter how much money he has, Gomez seems to value his family above all else, spending lavishly on whimsical endeavors just to entertain them. The passionate and mysterious love life of Morticia and Gomez. The relationship between Morticia and Gomez Addams is legendary for its intensity and passion. In an era when TV married couples were often portrayed as restrained and proper, Morticia and Gomez broke all the rules. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, and they were one of the first TV couples to imply that they had an active sex life. Their love for each other was anything but conventional, yet it was strangely endearing. Gomez's obsession with Morticia's beauty, her French phrases, and even her arm were all part of their bizarre yet devoted relationship. Despite all this passion, the pair never shared an on-screen kiss on the lips. Instead, Gomez would passionately kiss Morticia's arm, especially whenever she spoke French. This playful and odd dynamic made their relationship stand out from the typical portrayals of married couples on television at the time, which were often distant or cold. What makes their relationship even more intriguing is how deeply their love and respect for each other permeate their lives. They are unapologetically themselves around each other, thriving in their shared love for all things dark and gothic. Their romantic gestures are often over the top, from sensual tangos to intense gazes, but their bond is one of the healthiest and strongest on TV. Their ability to be completely themselves with each other, without fear of judgment, is what makes them such an iconic couple. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.